Okay guys, I wanted to make a video showing some of the tongs I have in order that I made them, and to show that if you keep making tongs, then eventually you will get to a point where you're proficient at it and they will start to look okay. So from my left to right, we have the first tongs I made. These are very bad tongs. These bits were way too weak and I ended up welding them. But I never actually used these tongs because they're just awful. Way too thick up here, very thin over here. Of course the bits are way too weak, so I never actually used these tongs. These tongs, I only made one half, but you can see this is the most common problem with tongs. This boss is tapered and it tapers up here, and that's the weakest point, and that's what will happen if you taper them on the far edge of the anvil without cleaning it up on the near edge of the anvil. So these two tongs I made before, well, if you want to call them tongs, I made before I went to Brazeal's in August of 2013. While I was at Brian's completing the tools to make tools curriculum, I had to make these hammer tongs. You can see these are the first real tongs I made, and they came out pretty well. And going from, I made these the week before I left, and to making these a few days in, you can see that Brian's instruction is really worth it. So if any of you guys are interested in taking a course with Brian, I mean, this just shows you that it really is worth the cost. So these are the first flat bit tongs I made there. These are just for standard flat bits for holding 1/8 stock. These aren't perfect, but they're still much better than the old ones, and I still use these. These are 1/8. These are the only tongs I did not make. These are made by Brian himself. These are for 3/8 flat, and they're very light tongs. These are just mild steel. So these are the first tongs I made when I came back home. These are 1/2" gooseneck tongs. These have also they're quite weak here on this end. It kind of tapers downwards, and they were also quite thick up here, and I ended up grinding that down. I don't use these tongs too much because I have better ones I'll get to soon. These are 1/4" flat bits, and what's different about these are not forged. These are more fabricated out of flat bar. You can see here the twist in the bits. So what I did was I cut a piece of flat bar. I cut the reins out basically out of one single piece of flat bar, and leaving enough for the boss and the bits, and I ended up tapering the bits in the forge, cutting in the V's, and I drilled out the rivet hole. And these are quite strong and quite heavy tongs. And if you're not really good at forging, maybe you just want a few sets of tongs, this isn't a bad option to go by. These are also fabricated gooseneck tongs, and these are, I got the idea from Brian Brazeal. He calls them universal tongs, or something along those lines. And these will hold anything. I've held 3/8 square all the way to 1 3/8 round. So these are very, very versatile tongs. And these are also fabricated like these. And these are just mild steel. These tongs are just 1/2" flat bits as well. They're quite heavy. I use these for bending open coil springs, so they're quite good for that. You can see they're quite thick. Now these are punch tongs. I got this idea from Daniel Leah and Alec Steele. Alec Steele has a video of him making these. If you'd be interested in that, I could put that link in the description. You can see these are made out of coil spring, and they're exceptionally light, but they're very strong. And how these work is, say you want to punch a hammer eye or something, you put the punch in here. You have a tong clip, you put the tong clip on, and you can just hold them like that, and you don't have to make a a large tool every time you want to do some sort of an operation with the striker, or even if you're working by yourself, these are good because they take your hand out of the equation, your left hand, and so maybe you don't have to wear a glove, or you don't have to worry about hitting your hand. And another thing to note about these is these are the second tongs I actually put the offset in, but I put these in afterwards. I did this because I saw Daniel Lee in one of his videos do it, and I have to say I really like this offset, and I'm gonna do it in all my tongs. This is so that the reins are in line, and this helps a lot, especially in the punch tongs. So after I made the punch tongs, I needed some sort of hammer eye tongs for holding smaller tools, because these are too big. This is good for larger hammers, but not for smaller ones. You can see these are kind of like a combination Haberman tong and Brazeal tong, because they have the fullered bits, and this is good for holding things. And this will actually hold anything from, you could see, 1/8 inch flat to, I believe this is 1 3/4 or 2 inch round. And these will hold larger things if needed. The disadvantage of these fullered bits is that they will mar up the inside of your eye, and you'll have to grind that out. So because of these tongs, I had to make another set, and I'll show you I'll show that to you guys soon. After these tongs, I have scrolling tongs. I made these especially for doing like leaf stems and that kind of stuff, and these are quite useful. I also want to put the offset in there, like with these tongs, but these are also at a spring. These have to be at a spring, otherwise they're going to bend. These have to be very strong tongs. Now these tongs are a little bit different. They are for holding on the flat, but I saw this style common in European tongs, like in a lot of European blacksmith videos, and I want to see what the big deal was with them. So these are basically like gooseneck flat bits. These are for holding 5/8 square, and these do not hold much stronger than these flat bits. Well, they hold weaker than flat bits, but these are actually quite simple to make. And I think the advantage of these is that if you want to, so let's say, adjust this to holding 1 inch or 3/4 inch or 7/8 or whatever, it's quite easy to do because you can do all the bending over here, not in the reins. And so I think these are very easy to adjust tongs, and that's their advantage. You can see these also have the offset, so these are the first tongs I put the offset in. As soon as I put the offsets in these, I really liked it, and so I put it in the punch tongs. And so the last tongs I'm going to show you guys are these Brazeal style tongs, and I needed these for holding the inside of hammer eyes that were too small for this one, and that these tongs would mar up. So I just finished these today. I also made a video about that, so you guys will be seeing that video soon. And these are made out of coil spring, and I quite like these tongs. I think they'll be very useful. These aren't all the tongs I have. I made an extra set of 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. But those are, well, I'm not using those right now because I have all these. So these are basically all the tongs I use in my toolbox regularly, with the exception of these. These are in the scrap bucket. So thanks for watching, guys, and look out for this video. It should be up soon with these hammer eye tongs.